Hello and welcome back to Five for Friday. My name is Ross Brierley, and this week we're getting excited about the launch of the Tote 10 to Follow competition for the jump season. That's right, it's your chance to build a fantasy stable that would rival that of Mount Olympus. It's the racing equivalent of fantasy football, except in this, you can't just captain Erling Haaland, go on holiday for 6 months, come back and see that you've won the league. Although admittedly, given his exploits this season, if you told me Erling Haaland was half human, half horse, I'd be inclined to believe you. He certainly has been the centre of attention, that's for sure. Anyway, without further ado, let's crack on. Here are 5 top tips to help you win this year's Tote 10 to Follow. Tip number 1, accept you're not going to win it. I know there's a little voice in the back of your head that's thinking, I might, but you're not going to win it. Oh, but maybe this is you're not going to win it. And that's absolutely fine, because it's supposed to be fun. Sure, the 40 grand would be helpful. It might even pay half your gas bill up to Christmas. But at the end of the day, the point of this is to have a little bit of fun over the course of the winter season and get those bragging rights over your mates. Tip number 2 is a combination of a few smaller ones, such as do not follow Pied Piper. Trust me, the last time thousands of people did that, it did not end well. Also, if you're running out of ideas, don't pick horses based on their name, although actually in hindsight, if your name's Edward Stone, John Bonn or Connor Flated, who would have done alright last year, but it's not a particularly viable long-term strategy. Unless your name's Eric Bloodaxe, in which case you're either an immortal 1,000-year-old king of Norway, or your parents have named you as such, in which case, crack on. And finally, don't think too far outside of the box, unless you're the kind of person who would have selected Commander of Fleet last year, who won 2 huge races at huge prizes and topped the scoring charts to the surprise of quite literally everybody. Tip number 3 is chasing. Now, normally in betting, chasing is a terrible thing to do. Please gamble responsibly. However, in the Tote 10 to Follow, it is the key to success. 16 of the top 25 scorers last year were chasers, and the winning stable had 7 out of 10 who were running over the bigger obstacles. So unless you find a horse like John Bonn who's going to mop up a few grade 2s along the way and then end up winning a nice race at the end of the season, you're going to struggle. Constitution Hill is an excellent example of how this doesn't work out. He won the Tolworth and the Supreme, yet was outscored by stablemate Balco Coastal, who won 2 novice hurdles at odds on. Play the game, not the horse. And ideally you want a staying chaser as well. In an updated version of an old joke, you want a horse that stays longer than Bryan Adams did at number 1 with that song from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. And by updated, I mean for people who were born in the 1980s. A whopping 6 bonus races are graded chasers over 3 miles or more, and you've also got the Ryanair and the Melling Chase as well for horses with a bit of stamina to burn. Tip number 4 is ignore Willie Mullins. He really is the bane of my life in the jump season, but what makes him so good at his job is what makes him so hard to put all of his horses in your list. 4 of the top 20 last year were trained by Willie Mullins, which is surprisingly low, given that he appeared to dominate pretty much every single major festival. Trying to predict what Mullins is going to do with his horses is like trying to predict who's going to be Prime Minister at Christmas. Hell, even the ultra-reliable, consistent and predictable Allaho even threw in a 3-mile Grade 1 curveball at the end of last season to maybe just put in the back of your mind that they might go for the Gold Cup this year, so who knows, quite frankly. And finally, don't forget Aintree. There are 7 bonus races at Cheltenham, but there are 5 at Aintree. And quite frankly, they're a lot easier to win. And last year of the top 20, Epatton, Noble Yates, Clandazobo, John Bonn, Fakir, Duderry and Gentleman Demi, amongst others, all won races in Liverpool without taking home first prize at Prestbury Park. In fact, half of the top 10 didn't win a race at Cheltenham. And whilst there is a transfer window to consider for this competition, if you're anything like me, you'll either forget it exists or only remember the day that it closes. That's it then, 5 top tips from someone who's never come anywhere near to winning the Tote 10 to Follow, and definitely won't this year. Unless, of course, no, it's not going to happen. But it'll still be fun, and that's the important thing.
Subscribe to Racing TV's YouTube channel now to watch more great races like this.